Okay. Hey guys, afternoon. I apologize if anybody didn't get on but was wanting to. I'm not sure if I had a change in my usual code or what happened. But I apologize if you're trying to get on and haven't been able to get on. Um, Today, what I wanted to go over and talk about, I realized when I started going through it that I didn't get the usual packet pages that I wanted to, and I was not going to make a special trip just to get it. So I kind of like how it worked out because you have extra time to focus on the material, and then using everything that I have given you as a good review to get into the material. You are going to have a quiz that I'm going to have you do at the end of the week for civil rights. And I would love to, I wanted to kind of speak to everybody first, but I know everybody has a hard time getting on Zoom meetings to see who has access to different video streaming sources and can see movies. I had posted last week a list of several movie choices. And so if you're able to watch one, I would love for you to be able to watch one and then do a movie analysis of it, talking about what issues are portrayed in the movie and how does that highlight the civil rights movement that's happening in the 50s, 60s, and even into the 80s, 70s and 80s, excuse me. So what I'm going to do today is go over and start with a couple of things in your packet. You actually have a couple of different study guides for the civil rights movement. You've got the one that's by itself that says civil rights movement. We're going to work on the first 10 in it, and then there's a page in your packet we're going to go to as well. But we're just going to do things a little bit differently this week, and then it'll go back to our usual routine of the different sections in your packet next week for Vietnam in the 1960s. All right, so let's do 1 through 10 on the Civil Rights Movement Study Guide. Number 1 says, this famous Supreme Court case made the policy of segregation legal across the United States. And this is talking about 1954. Sorry, about said the wrong one. 1896 Plessy versus Ferguson. Number 2, which president was the first to use presidential power to enforce civil rights? And that's going to be Truman. Truman's going to be the first one to start taking baby steps towards civil rights by integrating the military and then pushing for integration in federal employment. Number 2, he was the first African-American Major League Baseball player. That is Jackie Robinson. So if you have the movie 42, or you can find the movie 42 to watch, I think it's on Amazon Prime and some other places. I have it on DVD, and I would be more than happy to loan it to anybody if anybody wants to borrow it. I've got that one, and I might have a few others as well, but I think if you've got Disney Plus, you can watch Remember the Titans. That's another good example. And there's a whole list of other ones. You'll just have to kind of check it out. Okay, next is number, hold on, lost my place. Number 4 says, this famous case made the policy of segregation illegal across the United States, and that is the 1954 Brown versus Board of Education. Number 5 says she was the black lady who refused to give up her seat on a bus in 1955 in Alabama, and that is Miss Rosa Parks. If you listened to this morning during, or if you had a chance to already watch the video that I posted this morning going over the notes, then you already got to hear her story. Super courageous woman. Didn't mean to start a movement, but that's what it led to, was the bus boycotts. Next is number 6. He was the young pastor who became the leader of the bus boycott and then the leader of the nonviolent movement, and that is no one else but Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So he's only 26 years old when he starts pushing for nonviolent demonstrations and leads this movement that is something that is practiced and participated in all across the United States. Number 7 says, who was the 19th century American writer who was the 19th century American writer who helped influence the tactics of the nonviolent movement? And that's Henry David Thoreau. Henry David Thoreau and Gandhi were actually inspirations to Dr. King, and he states that. Next is number 8. This was the organization of church members who protested against racial discrimination, and that is the SCLC, Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Next, number 9, this is the organization of mainly college students who led protest of discrimination, and that is the SNCC, Students for a Nonviolent Coalition Committee. Forget the last C. Okay. Number 10, this city became the center of the nation's attention in 1957 as a small number of Black students were denied access to the all-white high school. And I actually stopped here in your notes. I was talking about Little Rock, Arkansas. That's the answer, Little Rock, Arkansas. I stopped there in your notes because I wanted to take some more time to get into it tomorrow. But that's where we're going to stop with your civil rights. Again, this is the one that's by itself, Civil Rights Study Guide. Now, in your packet, we're going to look at, if you'll go, I think it's the back of the first page, Civil Rights Study Guide, back of the first page in your packet. Maybe. Depends on how yours is stapled. Mine fell apart, so this might be the second page in your packet. All right, Civil Rights Study Guide. Let's go through, let's do the first 8 in this. So what 2 constitutional amendments were basically ignored by a large part of the population? So 14th and 15th Amendment, those were actually the first 2 amendments in your PowerPoint that I talked about today. So 14th Amendment is due process of law, having equal protection under the law. And 15th Amendment is all men having the right to vote. And I think I might actually get into that more tomorrow, that men were stopped from voting by poll taxes, literacy clause, grandfather clause, literacy test. That's what I meant to say, and poll taxes. So all these things are now illegal, but those are things that were stopping them in the beginning. Because poll taxes is actually the 24th Amendment, to vote for free, 24th. Grandfather clause and literacy test are both going to be made illegal under the Voting Rights Act of '65. So all these things are coming. Number 2, how did Jackie Robinson help to change racial discrimination? He is the first African American to get into Major League sports. So he paves the way for not just African Americans, but any minority in getting into Major League, not just baseball, but Major League sports. Number 3, who is Rosa Parks? She is a seamstress from Birmingham, Alabama, who doesn't mean to start a nationwide movement, but that's what it will lead to. So after she refuses to give up her seat on the bus, a movement happens nationwide that is supported by Martin Luther King Jr. and other nonviolent protesters. And it works so well that the bus companies almost go bankrupt, because so many people that had relied on the bus were now either carpooling or just getting up and walking to make that movement possible. Number 4 says, who would lead the boycotts in Montgomery, Alabama? Martin Luther King Jr. is seen as the face of all of these major nonviolent protest movements. Number 5 says, describe the belief of Martin Luther King Jr. after protesting unjust laws. So he says nonviolence. What he basically says is turn the other cheek. He says, you know, the Bible teaches us that we are not to get an eye for an eye, but that we are to turn the other cheek so that they don't have anything, or when I say they, I mean opposing authorities, don't have anything they can say. You know, they can't say, well, they fought back, they act like animals. Those individuals are not civilized people, right? You're not giving them a reason as to why you should not be given respect like anybody else. All right, next, number 6 says, what was the SCLC? So again, that's the Southern Christian Leadership Conference that is mostly preachers teaching their congregations to go out and practice nonviolent protesting. Number 7 said, where did school desegregation become a national issue? In 1957, again, that's Little Rock, Arkansas. I will get into that tomorrow in the video. And we'll stop at 8. How did Eisenhower solve the problem? Eisenhower's actually going to have to call in the National Guard and federal troops to go and escort students on campus. So it's really sad and crazy that things have to go that far, but unfortunately that's what has to happen. And it's not just Eisenhower. Kennedy, when Kennedy comes in office, Kennedy will have to do it as well. Several times in a lot of those deep southern states, Alabama, Mississippi, Missouri, Arkansas, all those deep southern states are holding to their roots and refusing to accept this new concept of integration. And it will be a long, hard fight the next pretty much 20, 25, even 30 years, even though a lot of people will argue that we're still having a lot of issues with people today, you know. But here's what I will say. I will say the United States is the melting pot, you know. That's what we're nicknamed. And I kind of think of it as like a vegetable soup. We have potatoes and carrots and peas and tomatoes and broccoli and whatever else. I don't know, whatever you throw in vegetable soup. Yeah, we're all vegetables, right? Like we're all people, you know. But are carrots and peas the same? Are tomatoes and potatoes the same? They're all vegetables, but they're not all exactly the same, and they're not going to get along. I mean, even you and your best friend don't get along exactly alike all the time, right? So what you have to do is you have to change your mental mindset, right? You have to understand the fact we all bleed. We all have the same organs. We might not look the same on the outside, but we do on the inside. And so we have to practice what we preach, right? Be kind, and be kind to everyone, even though sometimes it's easier said than done, right? So there's your little food for thought. All right, that's it. That's as far as we're going today. And hopefully I'll get everything squared away to where others can join me on the Zoom. So if I messed you up and if I sent the wrong code, I'm sorry, guys. But all right, that's it. You guys have a good afternoon. I'll see you tomorrow.